At the height of the COVID-19 outbreak, even with borders closed and a circuit breaker implemented, Singapore's security forces continued with key operations, defending against threats that remained ever present. With most of the country's essential supplies coming by sea, the Navy had to continue securing Singapore's waters daily.
During COVID, we had almost the same amount of ships coming into Singapore's waters every day, calling into our ports. Therefore, we still had to continue that same tempo of operations like we were before COVID. So we still had our ships out at sea on patrol, escorting ships. We still had teams boarding ships, escorting them into the Singapore port. So that did not change.
And while civilian travel fell, some parties decided to take advantage of the pandemic to probe at the Republic's air defences.
I can share that things still happen in the sky. We continue to investigate and we continue to respond to aircraft on a daily basis. During the circuit breaker period, we had to scramble our fighter aircraft on a few occasions due to suspicious aircraft. These are aircraft with no communications and unknown intentions.
The Singapore Police Force was also kept busy with a rise in online scams driven by COVID-19. Enforcement against illegal gambling, vice, and other offences also continued. The pandemic changed the way the forces operated.
For additional PPEs for us, we usually wear latex gloves now underneath our combat gloves. Another thing we wear is the eye pro, so this to prevent saliva droplets when we talk to the ship crew. Another thing we don on is the N95 mask. Okay, we will wear before we board the ship as we make our way up to the bridge. As we are approaching the ship, we will comms up to the ship captain asking, "Sir, are you feeling well? All your ship crew feeling well? And are all your ship crew wearing masks?" We ensure that these two things are being adhered to before we board the vessel.
The RSAF's control centre operations also had to split up and operate from multiple venues.
We split up into different teams basically for our controlling. We are cohorted separately when we have to operate from separate locations. There's a need for us to hand over our responsibilities via calls. So we make this kind of audio calls. I would say the main challenge is not being able to share the same scope that we are looking on, yet having to relay full details and also ensure that things are not left out.
Some rules in army camps and bases were also changed to allow for officers confined in camp to communicate with their loved ones.
In the military camps, we do not in the past allow the use of camera phones. But during the COVID pandemic for itself, we actually designated specific places where we allow the soldiers to continue to use their camera phones to keep in touch with their family. I think, the ability to see each other's face and have the interaction definitely beats having just a voice connection over a phone call.
The changing security requirements also saw a redeployment of manpower to other roles and duties.
The flight operations out of Changi Airport were dramatically reduced. So MHA actually deemed that they have sufficient forces to carry out their security operations at Changi Airport. So we were able to redeploy our forces to other parts of our mission of the island, which required us to continue to be deployed, such as Jurong Island as well as our camps and bases.
The Immigration and Checkpoints Authority also moved beyond border security and immigration control to manage the Stay Home Notice program.
This Stay Home Notice regime is a totally brand new job scope for ICA. So we just adopt and adapt. At the start of the regime, we actually did SMS location reporting, calls to the person serving SHNs, as well as conducting house visits to them to ensure that they are at their place of residence.
As in civilian life, the pandemic accelerated the push for security forces towards digitalisation and digital adoption. A police spokesman said the force has shifted community outreach and engagement efforts online. The police also deployed technology such as self-operating drones to patrol industrial estates and autonomous robots in the dormitory operations.
I guess some silver linings. So during this period, because we couldn't meet face-to-face, it forced us into using a much more digitalized options, virtual conferencing. And I think that those have borne fruits, and we are exploring how we can continue using some of these technologies even after the pandemic passes.